What is up, mathletes? Welcome back to another episode of Math with Dr. Math. And today we're going to be talking about solving systems of equations using that substitution method. Don't go anywhere. All right, mathletes. So let's go ahead and look at this problem and let's look at this substitution method. All right. So the first thing you're gonna do, right? For those of you who like steps, write this down. First step, pick a letter, right? Pick one of these variables, X or Y, and isolate it. That just means get it by itself. Maybe take it to a nice dinner, watch a movie. You know what I mean. All right, so step one, get X or Y by itself. Always choose the easiest one, right? So here, I have two equations, and I'm gonna choose this equation and get the Y by itself because that looks to be the easier equation. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take that equation and I'm gonna rewrite it because we are going to, I don't know where that 2 came from, we're gonna solve for Y. All right, so we're gonna solve for Y here. So here we go. I'm gonna take that 2x and I'm gonna subtract it from both sides because we're trying to isolate that y variable. So y equals negative 2x minus 5. So that's our first step. Pick a variable, get it by itself. Now we're gonna take a look here, right? Notice y is negative 2x minus 5. So what we're gonna do now is in our other equation, the one that you did not use, wherever you see a y, right? Wherever you see a y, you're gonna plug in whatever y equals, which is this negative 2x minus 5. But there's some details you gotta be careful with, right? So check this out. So I'm gonna copy down that first equation, the 4x minus 2, and look what I'm gonna do here. And this is gonna be key, right? This is gonna be what's gonna be, it's gonna save you from lots of mistakes, all right? So here's what I did. I put a parentheses here because you're gonna stick in, right? You're plugging in the negative 2x minus 5 because that's what y equals, right? So that's why it's called the substitution method, because you're gonna substitute all this in for y, all right? So let's do that. So wherever I see the y, let's go ahead and plug in the negative 2x minus 5. And please use those parentheses. Don't leave home without them. All right, so now we have an easy equation to solve, and check out this equation. Everything is in terms of x. And I know some of you are missing your x right now. So let's go ahead and let's solve this. So let's distribute the negative 2. So we're gonna get the 4x, we're gonna drop it like it's hot. Negative 2 times negative 2 is positive 4x. Negative 2 times negative 5 is positive 10, and it still equals 2. All right, so again, now we're just solving the equation that has one variable, which is easy to do. Combine like terms, you get 8x plus 10 equals 2. Subtract 10 from both sides, right? Let's do that in a different color. Minus 10, minus 10. And so we end up with 8x equals 2 minus 10 is gonna leave us with negative 8, right? So that left us with that negative 8. All right, and that's how I got this right here. So far, so good. All right, we're gonna divide both sides by 8, right? This should be the easy part because now everything's in terms of one variable. So we get x equals negative 1, all right? Don't start dancing just yet. All right, now I know what x is. X is negative 1, right? And you already know your x was negative. That's why you're not together anymore. So x is negative. So now the question is, what is y? Well, we're gonna, wherever we see x, we know it's negative 1. So what I do is I plug it back right here. I'm gonna plug it back into this equation. And what's nice is I could also plug it back into my original equations. And most textbooks, that's what they're gonna tell you to do, right? I'm gonna take a little shortcut. I'm gonna plug it in right here, assuming we didn't make any mistakes because you're in Dr. Math Studios. All right, so let's go ahead. And we get y equals negative 2 times -1 minus 5. So let's see what I did there. So I took this -1, and wherever I saw this x, I substituted that -1 inside because now I know the value. So x is -1. So I was using this equation right here. So y equals -2 times -1 minus 5. Let's do the math. We get y equals 2 minus 5, which equals -3. So now we found our solution. So our solution is -1 comma -3 because our x value was -1 and our y value is -3. So if these are two lines, now we know where these two lines cross. They cross at this point right here, -1 comma -3. All right, so there's our first example. And if you're a little shaky, don't go away. We have more examples and some special cases that you will definitely run into. Follow me. All right, so let's do another example here, mathletes, and we're gonna follow that same process. All right, so don't panic, Dr. Math is here. So step number 1, we're gonna choose one of these equations, equation 1 or equation 2, doesn't matter, and you're gonna pick a letter and get that variable by itself. And to make things easy, I'll just work with that top equation. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get that letter all by itself. All right, which letter? Well, in this case, both of them are pretty easy to get by themselves, right? So I'm gonna subtract y from both sides. And so now we know that x is equal to 5 minus y, right? So x is equal to 5 minus y. Right, so what I'm gonna do is let me do some highlighting for you because some of you are visual, you like to see some color. So wherever I see x that I shaded in blue, that highlighted in blue there, I'm gonna substitute 5 minus y right there for x. So here we go. We're gonna take equation number 2, and wherever I see that x, I'm putting that big old parenthesis there, right? Because I know something's going inside there. So let me ask you, what's going inside those parentheses? Excellent. If you heard the person behind you, they said 5 minus y. And you should be asking them what they're doing in your house. All right, so normally we would distribute whatever's in front, but it's an invisible 1, so that doesn't change anything. So if I multiply by 1, right, essentially I could get rid of those parentheses here. So let's get rid of those parentheses, and you're left with the following equation. All right, now let's combine like terms. This is the easy part, folks, right? This is the easy part. Combine like terms. You get 5 minus 2y equals -1. We're solving for y now in this case first, right? And so subtract 5 from both sides and you're left with -2y equals -6. All right, so let's finish this off. Divide both sides by -2 because you're trying to get that y by itself, and you get y equals -3. So once again, once you have one of the variables, now it's your job to go and find the second variable. And what's nice is you have an equation right here that you could use, you have an equation right here, and you have an equation right here. So let's go ahead and let's use equation number 1, all right? And so let me write down equation number 1. It was x plus y equals 5. But now I know y equals 3. So we're left with x plus -3, equals 5. All right, so let's go ahead and add 3 to both sides to solve for x. And we're left with x equals 8. So now I know that 8 was our value for x and -3 was our value for y. And what's awesome is you don't have to wait to get your test back, right? You could just plug these numbers back into both equations, and what you're gonna see is they both better work. If not, you made a mistake somewhere, all right? So what's nice about this is people are probably yelling at me, Dr. Math, you made a mistake earlier, right? And I did this on purpose so you can see why you always want to check your work, right? So before you unsubscribe, right, this was a trap. So check this out. If I were to plug in the 8 plus the -3 into my equations, sure, it works right here for this first one, but it has to work for both of them. So 8 minus -3 right? That is not gonna give you -1. So what that's gonna tell you is, well, wait a minute, I must have made a mistake somewhere. And like those of you that were yelling at the screen earlier, right? -6 divided by -2, that does not give me -3, it gives me +3. But what I wanna show you is how easy it is to make little mistakes. And that's why you're subscribing to Dr. Math, because I'm giving you all the secrets, right? So again, before you lose your faith, right, be patient, right? Math is a long-term game. You're gonna make mistakes, all right? So let's go ahead. We found our mistake right here, so let's just fix it, all right? So what I'm gonna do is what I do in my notes. I don't erase it. I wanna make sure I leave it there, but I cross it out in my notes so I know I don't make the same mistake twice. So when you're taking your exams, right, this is what you're not gonna hear in those other channels. You're gonna make mistakes and you need to go back and revisit your work. That's what's clutch, right? You know who I'm talking to. Don't just finish in 10 minutes. Don't finish those tests in 20 minutes. Take your time. All right, so now let's do this again. Let's plug in the correct number, which was +3, and here we go. 5 minus +3, which is 2. And now, if I were to go ahead and if we were to plug in 2 for x and 3 for y, now it's gonna satisfy this equation. And if I were to have a 2 right here and a 3 right here, that does equal 5. So now I have checked both equations and now you're set. Now you know that your final answer is 2, 3. Fantastic. All right, so now let's go ahead and look at those funny cases where special things start to happen and most students get confused, right? So don't let this be you. All right, mathletes, new problem, same strategy. We're gonna choose one of these equations. Notice I highlighted that y, I made it a little bit more bold so that you know I'm gonna isolate that y, right? So let's go ahead, let's take that first equation, y plus 4 equals 3x. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna solve for y first. So let's go ahead and do so. Let's subtract 4 from both sides. And we're left with y equals 3x minus 4. So now you know the value of y, right? So what did we say? Well, now we take that second equation, which is over here, and wherever I see y, I know what I'm plugging in. I'm plugging in 3x minus 4. So let's do that. We're gonna use equation number 2 down here. So we get 2y, but I know what the y is, so I'm not gonna write that y, right? A lot of folks fall into the trap and they actually still write the y there. Don't be that guy, or else you'll just end up looking like him. All right, so let's go ahead. Let's plug in the 3x minus 4, right? Order of operations, let's go ahead and distribute. All right, so we got 6x minus 8 minus 6x, and some of your eyes are starting to get really big here. You're like, wait a minute, Dr. Math, something's about to happen that I'm not sure I'm comfortable with, right? 6x minus 6x. Yes, folks, they do cancel out, and you should actually be doing the Dr. Math dance. Right, this is some good news because check it out. We're left with -8 equals -8. So does -8 equal -8? Absolutely. So what this means is that no matter what you choose for x, no matter what you choose for y, I gotta be careful there, we have infinitely many solutions. So when we graph this, right, when we graph this, what you're gonna see is you're gonna have one line, right? You're gonna have one line, and that second line that you're gonna graph is gonna be right on top of that line. Because remember, we're trying to ask the question, where do these points cross, right? And because these lines are right on top of each other, right, what this shows us algebraically is that we're gonna have infinitely many solutions because they cross each other right here, right here, right here, right here, right here, right here. It goes on forever. So your final solution is you're gonna tell your audience that you have infinite solutions. you have an infinite amount of solutions. And that's how we're gonna write our answer right there. Infinite solutions, right? Because there's too many for us to list. And depending on what textbook you're using or your instructor, right? They're gonna tell you exactly how they want you to write that, but many are gonna be okay with you writing that. All right, let's take a look at one more special case. All right, so let's look at this case right here. So once again, the process doesn't change. We pick one of those two equations and we're gonna solve for either X or Y, whatever one is easier. All right, so let's go ahead and take this second equation and let's solve it for Y. So we're gonna go ahead and take that second equation and we're gonna solve for Y. So I'm gonna go ahead and add 2x to both sides, add 2x to both sides, bam, bam. So we get y equals 2x plus 5, right? It's addition, doesn't matter if I write the 5 first or the 2x first, same thing. All right, so now, right, I have equation 1, equation 2. I used equation 2, so now we're gonna plug this, right, these values here, this expression in for y in that first equation because I haven't used it yet. So we get 6x minus 3 times y, but we know y is now equal to 2x plus 5, and that equals -9. All right, so let's go ahead and let's distribute this -3 because that's all we could do. So we get 6x minus 6x, some of you starting to panic again, minus 15 equals -9. So what do you know? Those x's, all those x's, right? The 6x cancels with this x. That doesn't happen in real life, right? If you get more x's, they don't cancel each other out. So be careful. All right, so what are we left with? We're left with -15 equals -9. Well, is that a true statement? Nope, of course not. So -15 does not equal -9. So whenever you have a false statement, what you're gonna say is that there is no solution. There is no solution, and some textbooks will want you to write it like that. Some will want you to write an empty set like this. So make sure you're familiar with the notation that you're being asked to use. And what does this mean graphically? Well, if I have two lines, right, what this means is if I'm looking to see where they cross, we could see here that these lines are parallel and they never cross. And that's what we have here, right? So now you've seen the three cases and now it's your turn, mathletes. All right, so before you head off to math class, you try these two problems and don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, and if this is helping you out, you recommend us to 1,000 of your friends. We'll see you in the next video, mathletes. Peace.